Day 4, 30th March 2020, lockdown South Africa. This morning on the news, there's just so much about unruliness and things like that. People have their money, it's payday for many, and there's absolute chaos going on. Chaos that could be curbed. On the news very early this morning, there was one of the leaders in the Eastern Cape talking about how they have made effort to get the elders to the pension payouts and make sure that things are going on in order there. What surprised me was the person who was interviewing her didn't have a mask on. He was standing there with his gloves and holding his cube mic and what have you, but he wasn't covered. And then I asked myself, there's a little meme going on around the gloves. If you don't change your gloves, you're just a little bus transporting these germs from one person to the other. The book I picked up this morning, I think every South African knows the power of this book. I have a great respect for Thuli Madonsela, Advocate Madonsela, and I think also Dr. Madonsela now. And I'm not going to go into politics because I'm not a politician. I'm a counsellor, as you can see, and I have a few other professions behind me, but politics is definitely not one of them, neither is law. And what appealed to me, of course I flip through books, as I've said to you, they're just my morning inspiration. The words of Thuli at the back, she says, "I love the execution of the law. It gives me a great sense of joy. That is why I'm able to take all the troubles of my job." Madonsela once described her role as public protector as being akin to that of the traditional Venda spiritual female leader, the Makatsi, who whispers truth to the leader. When the sounds and exchanges between the leader and the Makatsi grow loud, that is when the whispering has failed. So if I look at this very critically, and quite literally now, considering what the situation we're in, there are avenues where we can report things that are going wrong. And this can be done by whispering. No one's going to call you out and say you did it, but you could be saving somebody's life. A video last night surfaced on Facebook, and it was posted by somebody I respect very much. It was done by a gentleman in Cape Town, identified himself. He's one of the leaders. Society leaders, and he expressed his utter disgust at the crowding in stores, people going out to the mall to buy things, etc. And what struck me is it's not the poorest of the poor. It's people from affluent suburbs. And I loved the way, his emotions came through when he said, "What is it that you need? Are you short of chips? Don't you like the Lindt chocolate in your fridge? Is it something like that you're looking for? You just want to exercise? You want to count your steps? Is that why you're going out?" Give the opportunity to the have-nots to go and do their shopping. Granted, the clothing shops and, the non-necessary shops at the malls are closed. And people need to go and buy their groceries and stop being selfish. If you've bought yours, especially people from the affluent areas. And this, I wish I could have embedded his video in this, but I will, one of the later stages, provide a link to his video. I think he was amazing. If you're living an above average life, or even an average, you've got enough food. Give the opportunity to others. Stop bordering on greed. Because you've been buying, that's the way you were. You had the money to always buy. You were not a day-to-day buyer, nor were you somebody who waited for a social service allowance to do your buying. So be mindful of that. The other video I watched that really got me thinking was a very well-spoken young man living in a shack. And he said to the police, he said, "We live 10 in a room. So what difference does it make? What social distancing do you want us to engage in? Look at the toilet we have to go to. Look at all those things. How can you ask us to social distance? Now, we all have a role to play. And if you find that people are being inconsiderate and not following the law, you actually have every right to be a Makatsi. And nothing should stop you from doing that. Have the courage. Stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. If they're being deprived in any way, represent them. Down the line, it will definitely help. I also engaged with a large supermarket this morning, and I asked them, they had reduced their prices specifically for Social Service Allowance Day. And my concern was, you've got prices to entice people. Last week, before the lockdown, as far as I am concerned, the day the president said, that Sunday evening, when he said gatherings of 100 maximum, people should have adhered to it. And this one group apparently put their prices up. So they only reduced their prices for today. And when I questioned that, of course the answer wasn't quite direct. But to some extent, it was palmed into the supplier. And then after that, they had the nobility to state how they're going to control today and tomorrow, because it's 2 days of social services allowance. And I respect them for that. I respect the fact that they didn't run away from giving me an answer. And I will be engaging with them, as I see things coming up in the newspaper or on social media. I'm not going to keep quiet about it, because if we keep quiet, then we're failing in exactly what I'm pleading to you to do. Let's consider that breaking the law is not acceptable during this time. Our numbers are rising. They're rising drastically. Dear ones are in, ICU on ventilators and things like that. And it's sad. Also, funerals are being held. And, when you have to say to somebody, I'm sorry, you cannot come to the funeral, or just view and leave. Families are going through much more than fear of COVID. This is having such an effect. Today, I presume you're still in long weekend mode, 4-day long weekend. When Easter's coming up, it's going to be another long weekend. I think it's really going to hit you by Wednesday, when you realize that you don't have work to go to, and this is the reality we're living in. We're all part of this whole network. And I would like to close with a Native American proverb. And it says, man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. Please understand, please respect this web that we call life, and respect your fellow human beings. Stay at home, obey the law. We can't go back on the mistakes that were made. For example, I spoke about the crowding at the supermarket and having gatherings over 100, etc. We should have listened to our president on that Sunday night. I'm not blaming everything that's happening on not listening to him, but sometimes we fail to take heed when we take things very lightly. And this is the consequence of it. Until we meet again, much love to you, much blessings, and courage to go through this lockdown. God bless you.